Today in 2009 Roadtrek Popular, we're going to review and install the Timbren Rear Suspension Enhancement System, part number TGMR G35. Okay, that's what it looks like once installed into place. You notice that it sits on top of frame, replaces the original bounce stop, and this is a whole assembly and a spring, and interacts with your suspension by touching the axle. This will work with vehicles with this stop right here, it comes off the spring, or without. In this case, you can see that we actually had to remove ours to make it work good. We'll cover that more in our install. These two springs do have a lifting capacity of 3,600 pounds. Now, it does not increase your capacity of your vehicle, so always double check to make sure this matches the capacity of your vehicle for whatever load you put into it. Now, two springs will work independent of each other because they're in two different locations. This will allow suspension to rock back and forth as needed, but still provide support. Now, when these are installed, typically these will not affect the ride performance when your vehicle is empty. Of course, we're working with RV here, so that the weight is actually going to be always constantly on the axle. But when these are under load and working with the axle, this will actually increase the stability of the load on the axle and make the vehicle handle a little bit better, and plus it'll reduce sagging. Now, beyond handling just the load of suspension, this also goes out to the rest of your vehicle. This will actually help the handling of the vehicle when it's under load. Now, before we do our install, let's go ahead and take our RV and we'll go over our test course and the bumps and see how suspension reacts before we install our Timbrens. We'll go over alternating bumps first. Kind of shows uneven pavement. Okay. And at regular speed bumps, you can definitely feel the suspension going up and down a lot to accommodate the speed bumps. Next, we'll go ahead and do some turns, see how suspension works going around corners, and general handling down the road. And with the stock suspension setup, of course, when you go around turns, you're definitely going to feel a little bit of a body roll. All right, let's go ahead and cover the parts that come with the kit. Now, we're only looking at the parts that go for just one side of the vehicle, so this will all be doubled for the other side. First off, we got our spring right here. You notice it does have a washer already sit inside there. It's supposed to be like that. Got 3 plates, one round plate here, 2 spacer plates, and 1 specialty bolt. Notice it has a T-shape to it, and this will actually fit into the frame. It's designed to sit that way, and a lock nut on the other end. Now, the Timbren replaces the original jound stop, and just for comparison, here's the original one that will be on the van. Some big difference. So this will actually touch the spring sooner, and start working sooner, and support your load. Now, first thing to install is actually get our vehicle ready, and that means lifting the body off the suspension so it's more working room. Now, you can do this with the wheel out of the way. However, I recommend, if you can, jack up the vehicle and also remove the wheel. Okay, now we're on the driver's side here, and this is the stop that we have to remove. It's just a press fit in there, so I'm just using a pry bar to get underneath there and just work it out. Once you get it started, just wiggle it out. And that's it. Now I'll do some pre-assembly of our Timbrens. Start with our bolt. It's only going to match one of these holes. Take another one, stack that on top. Round plate. Then we'll drop our spring. Make sure every little washers in there is centered over the bolt. We'll drop that in place. And then we'll install the nut. I'm going to use a 3/4 inch socket, a deep well, and a short extension. And I'm going to use a piece of tape to help hold this nut in there for me while I thread it on. And then let's carefully drop it into place and thread it on. Now, it's a lock nut, it's only going to go so far, and that's fine. We just need to keep it loose so we can install the assembly. We definitely want all this play. Now, to put it in place, we're going to make sure that our little T-bolt will fit into this slot that's inside the frame. This is where a jound stop was, and we'll take that bolt and run it towards the back. Now we're not going to go all the way back, but just enough to hold it in place for now. Right, now we have it in place, and then you want to move it back and forth till you get it where it sits over the center of the axle. Once we have it the way we want it, we'll take our 3/4 inch socket. We'll go ahead and tighten down the T-bolt. Now before I get too tight, make sure your spacers are sitting all together, and we'll use our flat side of our spacer here to our advantage so this doesn't rub anymore. It has to under our parking brake cable. Once we have it sitting the way we want it, we'll go ahead and tighten it down for good. We have our driver's side done. We're going to repeat the same process over on the passenger side. All said and done, we can go ahead and reinstall our tire. One thing to note about our install, after we lowered it down to the ground, we found out this didn't really sit well with our spring. Under typical normal circumstances, it probably worked fine, but our vehicle is loaded up to the max, basically. So we found out that this really bent in and actually didn't interact well with this. So we ended up just cutting this off, and we let this part reside on top of the axle where it worked just fine after that. Now this looks like a lot of metal cut off, but I actually just, honestly, I just used a Sawzall with a low speed and a metal cutting bit. In a few minutes, I was already through. All right, now for Timbren suspension installed, let's go ahead and try it on our bumps course one more time. Once again, we'll go over our alternating bumps and see how our springs will compress and uncompress as we go over the bumps and still supporting the axle at the same time. And then we'll go over our speed bumps here. You can see they're both working at the same time. I can definitely feel a little bit smoother difference. It's still there, the bumps are still there, you can still feel them, but it's a little more controlled action. All right, let's go ahead and mix some maneuvers once again. We'll do some left and right turns, kind of fast. There's definitely some roll, but it is definitely reduced. There is a measurable amount. But definitely makes it more capable of going around turns and stuff as needed in an emergency situation, or you just need to get around something really fast. And now finish it for a Timbren rear suspension enhancement system, part number TGMRG35, on this 2009 Roadtrek Popular.
Click the link below to shop, learn more, or visit us at etrailer.com.